Giving all praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai by Hashem HaRachakodash. I say double honors to our apostles and elders here at Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the Lord's hopefully elect. All right, so I'm mainly going to be talking about the Sabbath, and what I'm just going to highlight is how keeping the Sabbath, like if the Sabbath was to be kept like nationwide today, it would be considered a thorn in the side for America or Babylon the Great. And that's because the society by design has implemented changes to ensure that the average American person is constantly on this never-ending hamster wheel because of the foolishness of the king, right? Because the king is foolish and he does not regard the Heavenly Father. He does not regard his law, does not regard his people. He created a society that is doomed to fail. It's only a matter of time to fail. The leading number one cause being that when they did away with the gold standard, when they did away with the gold in the use of exchange for currency, but instead set up a world reserve, which the U.S. dollar are just debts. They're just paper debts. And they did that for greed, and they did that for control over the world, and they did that for control over the people as a snare. But in the long run, it's just going to breed the downfall of the kingdom because they're not wise at all. Okay. Basically the Heavenly Father set up the ways how things should go. Esau, Edom, the devil, a foolish king, come in with his own way, and in the long term, you see the consequences of it. And another thing is the people. The people, and how in this society, how everybody's goal or everybody's ambition, you can say, number one, you would say probably financially freedom, to not have any burdens or debts and to be financially free, and they're finding it hard. And that's because a lot of them don't understand that this society was designed to keep you on the hamster wheel. It was designed to prevent you from being free. They give the illusion that you can make it, but everything presented before you is a trap and a snare. And when you go to inquire the reasoning of it, you make inquisition, you find out that it's done by design, because the wicked elite, Esau, Edom, truly does not want you at all to be free. So that just made me think of, I'm gonna come back to the scripture here. The book of Proverbs 29, verse 2, it says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. This chapter talks a lot about being in a rulership position. Verse 7, it says, the righteous considereth the cause of the poor, but the wicked, Esau, Edom, regardeth not to know it. Verse 14, it says, the king that faithfully judges the poor, his throne shall be established forever. And there's other scriptures as well, but basically tell you that a righteous king will when he does right by his people or the poor, then his throne is established. As I just read, there's precepts to that as well. So there's something called the gospel of consumption, and as we're going to read, okay, this guy Michael Prinzen, the guy that put together, but this gospel of consumption, that can be found back in the early 1900s. This is when the wicked elites, or the leaders, if you could say, of Babylon the Great, America, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, decided to start to implement the changes to get people to constantly buy, work, sell, and to never rest and to never sit still. In fact, as you're going to hear, this is what they said publicly. But the idea, for the sake of business, for the sake of covetousness, if business were to last, then the people can't be content. The people can never be content. The people can never rest. And this is why, really, in the time we're living in now, everybody, for the most part, is starting to learn really how to rest and how to mentally be content and satisfied with the little things and glory in that, than to concern themselves so much about what the society is telling them. And the beauty in that, the virtue behind that, is that it can all be found in the scriptures, really, regarding the Sabbath. When the Lord gave the Israelites the Sabbath, okay, it's more than just it's more than just a day where you don't work. Okay, it's more than just the harshness of it, where a man was put to death on. It's more than that. The Lord wanted us to understand the virtue behind it, the beautifulness in it, right? Because in 7 days, when the powers created, it's like in 6 days the powers created the earth. When it said the 7th day he rested, okay, he just let things flourish. He let things do its cause. And when he gave it to the Israelites, he wanted us to see the benefit in it. Okay, he wanted us to. You might remember, he knows what's best for us. Even going back to the fabric law, it's more than just. It's not just. Oh, he just doesn't like to see fabrics mixed like the wool and linen. No, what it's about is he called us gods, and he created us. He gave us everything from our skin to our body and all that. He wants it to thrive. So when he gave us the dietary law, when he gave us the law on the linen, it was for our benefit. When he looked at us, when he looked at his people, okay, his people who he called his children, he didn't want you to eat pork. He didn't want you. He don't want to see you eating shrimp, crab, and lobster. 1 second. These things that's harmful to your body. Okay, he don't want to see his people wearing mixed fabrics, because when you do the science behind it, wool and linen, the frequency on it collapses each other, which brings it to zero. So it's actually no benefit to your skin. Whereas 100% of linen or 100% of cotton uplift your body vibration, make you feel better. That's what he did it for. Just like the Sabbath. The Sabbath is a day of rest. Okay, it's a day for his people to be refreshed again. And that's the main words we're going to be reading about today. Refreshed, Sabbath, and content. And it was for us to see the virtue in it. That's why Yahweh Shai said, it's virtue behind it. You just got to take the time to, have the Spirit, pray for the Spirit to, give you the understanding on it. But as Matthew chapter 12, verse 7, but if ye had known what this meaneth, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the guiltless, for the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath day. All right? And he did good things on the Sabbath day. I'm looking for what he says. Okay, it's Mark 2:27. And he said unto them, the Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. See, there's virtue behind that. It was made for us, the benefit of us. Okay, so let's get into this gospel consumption. And you're going to hear from the Edomite's mouth how this was all programmed and planned. All of this is the way you actually live is designed not to where it's designed specifically against your will or your goal to really be free. They don't want you to be financially free. They don't want you to have time to rest, to have leisure. They don't want that. So the society is geared to constantly keep you on the hamster wheel. And that's why, and I got to read that. As Micah 2:10 says, arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. See, this ain't it. This ain't our rest. This isn't our Sabbath. This land is not. That's why in the book of Hebrews it says, therefore there still remaineth a rest for the people. We can't rest here. As much as our people try, we can't, because we're in captivity. It says, because it is polluted, it shall destroy you, even with the sword destruction. And that goes more into mentally as well. All right. So check this out. It says contemporary American consumerism is a product of deliberate efforts by the 20th century businesses to make people unsatisfied. Let's throw off these shackles and adopt a more satisfying and more sustainable lifestyle. And what he's saying is true. As you're going to hear, in the early 1900s, they made it their goal to keep people working and buying and doing stupid stuff, because according to their eyes, the best business model is anti-rest, anti-Sabbath, as you can say. In summary, it says, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics report that in 1901, an average of 20.2% of a family's spending was allocated to, quote, non-necessities. A century later, by 2002, that figure jumped up to basically 50%. It says, at the start of our millennium, I'm just going to jump down. It says, in the early 20th century, increases in productive efficiency led to enormous surpluses of consumer goods. So what they're saying right there is that the productive efficiency, meaning they made things better when things were made to last longer, it led to enormous surplus of consumer goods, meaning it was so good, the stuff worked and it lasted. So once people got their share of whatever it was, clothes, equipment, cars, then they were content. It worked. It lasted long, which means a lot of it stayed on the shelf. So what was Esau's method? You're about to hear. It says this was a problem for business, since while the rate of production had increased rapidly as a result of technological improvements, the rate of consumption had remained stable. This meant that companies had products piling in the warehouses that wouldn't sell. Rather than reduce production, however, that would reduce profit, they sought to increase consumption. Now here comes the serpent, where he uses his tongue, his craftiness, which is to deceive people. You know, part of the devil, part of his strength is his deception, his tongue. So he came up with the idea to say, we'll convince these people, we'll use our craftiness in media, you know, commercials, all these things to convince people that they need to spend more, right? This is best for business, right? It says, thus, there arose what was called the, quote, gospel of consumption. The phrase comes from a 1927 article by Edward Caldrick titled, quote, The New Economic Gospel of Consumption. Charles Kettering, the director of research at General Motors, and that's funny, it's always General Motors. Like, you got this guy from General Motors, you got Tom Ford from General Motors. He's the one that came up with the 40-day work week. Interesting. It says from 1920 to 1947, is said to have put this, quote, the key to economic prosperity is the organized creation of dissatisfaction. The emerging class of suburban homeowners were the prime targets of this program of cultivating discontent. You see, they created it to be discontent. And this is why we say Esau Edom, everything about him is anti-Most High. Because the scriptures actually teach you about being content. And it's showing you that really being content is freedom. Content is godliness. And the content teaches you the virtue that the Lord wanted us to learn really within the Sabbath, you can say. Because the Sabbath, you can learn a lot of that when you actually study the Sabbath. Like I said, is more than just a day of no work. Okay, there's virtue in it. All right, when you actually stop, which was, again, we're in captivity, so we're not keeping it perfect on this side. We'll keep it perfect in the kingdom. But since we're in captivity, we're examining the law, our lifestyle. You really see that the Lord truly set us up for greatness. Okay, we the Israelites, we were supposed to stand out amongst the other nations. So like when they do these surveys, or when they examine, they're like, we went to this part of this world and we noticed that, these people actually don't have cancer. I wonder why. And then we studied and we realized, oh, it's because of the diets, because they exercise and all this. When the other nations looked at Israel, they were supposed to see holiness. There wouldn't be any STDs and stuff like that. Why? Because we got the law: no adultery. Marriages worked, family flourished, everything was just working, flourishing. When they come to inquire, they would leave marveled, like, oh, surely this is a wise and great understanding people, because as the scripture says, that's our wisdom amongst the earth. That's what they would do when they come to inquire of us, right? Just like the queen that came and met King Solomon. She came in with high expectations. She left with, how do you say, she left astounded. She said everything I saw exceeded my expectations. The rumors don't do justice to what I've witnessed and the things I've spoken to from King Solomon, the wisdom. And that's what spread the word around, like, yes, that's the Lord's people right there, them Israelites. Okay? And when you look at the Sabbath would actually teach you a lot if we was to perfectly keep it in our land and whatnot. Because look at what we're living today. Okay, let's keep going. It says, the emerging class of suburban homeowners were the prime targets of this program of cultivating discontent. In 1932, economist Walter Pitkin claimed that American suburbanites would, quote, become the ideal consumers. It seems he was right. Though the gospel of consumption stuttered during the hard economic times of the Great Depression, it came roaring back in the post-World War II era of fast food and TV dinners. For instance, here is Victor Lebeau, sound like an Amalekite, writing in a Journal of Retailing in 1955. All right, so here's what he said. Quote, our enormous productive economy demands that we make consumption our way of life, that we convert the buying and use of goods into rituals, that we seek our spiritual satisfactions, our ego satisfactions in consumption. The measure of social status, of social acceptance, of prestige is now to be found in our consumptive patterns. The very meaning and significance of our lives today expressed in consumptive terms. We need things consumed, burned up, worn out, replaced, and discarded at an ever-increasing pace. We need to have people eat, drink, dress, ride, live in ever more complicated and therefore constantly more expensive consumption. What becomes clear is that from the larger viewpoint of our economy, the total effect of all the advertising and promotion and selling is to create and maintain the multiplicity and intensity of wants that are the spur of the standard of living in the United States. And you know what this devil basically explained? Covetousness. Covetousness. That's basically what he explained. And why did he do this? For lucre's sake, for business, for money, because of the world reserve, the US dollar. Okay? To ever keep people in debt, never satisfied. And that's what the society you live in today. The society you live in today is based upon debt. It's all based upon debt. They want you to spend money you don't have on things you don't need. And that's all people do all day. They buy things they don't need by spending money they don't have. Which leads them to what? Credit card debt, into student loan debt. Those the top two number one debtors in the US, credit card and student loan debt. And they do that intentionally because it makes it seem like their economy is doing well, because if you're in debt, you're going to go to work and you're going to do good at your job because you need to pay them back. And as long as the government can say that somebody owes them money, then that means that they're doing good. and women are the number one prey when it comes to their predatory loans. Women are number one prey, and that's also part of why the feminism movement was brought forth. Is they can get the woman out there working and isolated from the man, so now they can be both taxed, and they know that women crave things that don't matter, like useless degrees and useless titles. So they set up these colleges and student loans and these credit cards. They know women gonna spend, and they constantly have them spend because they know that they're gonna rack up thousands of debt like fools. Okay, being preyed on, and then now you got to pay that debt back. So now you got one option: you gonna have to go to work, and you're gonna go be a slave, and you're gonna run that hamster wheel because you have to pay off these debt. It's all by design. You understand? Everything in this society is done by design. Okay, you have something called planned obsolescence. That means where they design things to fail. Why you think older model vehicles are highly sought after? Because they were originally designed to work. They were designed to last. That's simple. And over the course of time, especially dealing with General Motors, they made a business model to turn to design them to fail. That's why your newest car, I don't give a damn what it is, 2024, whatever it is now is made with cheaper parts, just more fancy lights, more fancy out appearance, but under the hood is cheaper parts. It's plastic, styrofoam. It's things designed to fail after X amount of years, and they understand it's going to fail after X amount of years because they want you to trade that in and buy a new car within 3 or 4 years. That's why you still got cars running down the street from the 80s running good. This new stuff today, trash. Okay? It's by design. I'll read a little bit more. It says, the point I want to make here is that the culture and psychology of consumerism to which we are so accustomed was not an inevitable consequence of human nature or of capitalism or of any such thing. It was the result of a concerted and explicit effort on the part of businesses to make people unhappy with what they had and therefore more inclined to purchase more products. And you can read the rest. I think I read it. Well, wait a minute. We got another quote here. It's a good read, Got another quote. Psychologists Ed Diener and Robert Bias Diener wrote that more money may enhance subjective well-being when it means avoiding poverty, but income appears to increase subjective well-being little over the long term when more of it is gained by well-off individuals whose material desire rise with their incomes. All right. And they basically say that, humans weren't designed to live this way. But yeah, and you can find that in the scriptures. Okay. So back to the scriptures. Let's see. This is Exodus 23, dealing with the Sabbath, verse 10. And in 6 years thou shalt sow thy land, and shalt gather the fruit and the fruits thereof. But the 7th year thou shalt let it rest and lie still, that the poor of thy people may eat, and what they have the beasts of the field shall eat. In like manner thou shalt deal with thy vineyard and with thy olive yard. So when we went into our land and we sowed our land, 6 years you would sow, but on the 7th you let it rest. You just let it be. Everything that grew and everything that was there was just for the poor. People come and pick the food if they had nothing else, but they weren't supposed to gather like a like a bunch, because the Lord wants to land the rest. But nevertheless, it's still food for the beasts and the people, so you go eat. But He wants to land the rest. All right, so that's why the Native American Indians, that's how you know they're Israelites, because they were really big on migration. They believed in letting the land rest, so they did a lot of moving. It says, 6 days thou shalt do thy work, and on the 7th day thou shalt rest, that thine ox and thine ass may rest, and the son of thy handmaid and the stranger may be refreshed. Because that's the goal, is to be refreshed. He wants the land to refresh, let it be, right? Let it rejuvenate. It's resources and minerals, let it relax, right? Just let it be and let it do what it do. Same thing when we went out there and worked and labored. When the Lord wanted us to rest, it's for our body's sake, so we won't get worn out. He don't want to see us working 24/7, 365 days, and that's exactly what the society has taught us to do. So that's why you have a lot of people that's burnt out, frustrated, mentally frustrated, and everybody's just like, man, I just need a time to sit and relax and just, enjoy what I have and what I got, and not have to just constantly worry about fucking money, not have to worry about bills and all this other stuff. That's why people losing their minds, because they don't know that they grew into a society where they deliberately designed it for you to fail. It's the goal is to keep you on the hamster wheel, and they'll tell you that it's for the economy, that it's good for the economy. So you going out there spending money, racking up, spending those credit cards, using those credit cards, it's good for the economy. You got to keep you spending. You got to keep doing things. You got to keep going out there and spending. They to actually stop, to pick a day where you stop, everybody just stops, right? That's actually a thorn in the side. That's anti business model like. Okay, why? Because they don't want you to stop. Here's what happened if you actually stopped and rested. You would learn to be content. You will learn to see what you have. You will learn to see and be happy with the things that you do have. Okay, when the Lord wanted us to Sabbath, to keep it, He wanted us to, don't worry about work anymore. Don't worry about food. Don't worry about all that. Just take the time to relax and rest. Okay, keep it holy. Think upon the scriptures, because everything is to keep us in remembrance of the Lord anyway. From the fringes, from writing the laws on your doorpost, and even from the Sabbath. All right, it's constantly keep you in remembrance of the scriptures of the Lord, because it's easily can get distracted. It's very easily to forget the Lord when you're just too busy doing too much. So when you had that Sabbath come in, it was a way for you to reflect and to keep you focused on the scriptures, and you learn to be content with things that you have. You're not looking to constantly buy. Your mind is clear. It's supposed to be clogged. It's supposed to be unclogged. You just sit and you just, you know what I'm saying? You rest, and you take pleasures in the thing that don't require work, right? Like just, we would gather and just talk about the scriptures, right? That's why typically church would fall on the Sabbath, you would say, but it's really whenever back then, but we made it a custom, right, to get together. All right, it's a Sabbath day, let's get together and let's talk about the Lord, and you talk amongst each other. You keep it holy, right? You refresh the thoughts of work and the next day and toiling this and plucking that. He didn't want you to think about it. Okay, so that's why do you think our people like vacationing so much? They feel it's helpful, healthy, because it's for them to just take their mind off of work, and just, man, I don't know what they'll do, sit on the beach and just relax and just sit. And it's very refreshing, is it not? Well, guess what? The Lord actually gave that to us in our custom to have weekly. You know what I'm saying? So, and when you see people out there vacationing, going around, and they just enjoying time with their family and all this other stuff, and they're not having to worry about money or work, they'll tell you this, they feel free, they feel weighted off their shoulders, because they actually you could say, live and enjoy the life and the pleasures of life that don't require, that really the Lord gave to us for free. And when you really get to the bottom of it, you say, well, Lord, if you really should look at it, when the Lord gave us the Sabbath day, that's really what He gave it to us. He gave us a weekly, you could say, a mental free vacation, as you can say. My favorite days are the days where I just chill. I know I'm like, okay, good. I just chill. I just sit, chill. Read, right? Kick back, watch a movie. I don't know, play some games. I feel like revitalized when you just don't have to worry about so much, right? And that's why when you come to the scriptures teach you about contentment, whereas the society has you believe that really, if you ain't out there spending, buying things you don't need with money you don't have, you're not doing nothing. And social media helps with that as well. It's all about design, man. That's why the more you come unplugged from the society, the more you really see um, the benefit. The more you see the benefit of what the Lord really gave men, to take pleasure in for free, right? You know, chasing money, as the scripture says, chasing riches is like chasing the wind, right? So the scriptures try to teach you what true wisdom is, which is, um, contentment, right? Contentment, and that life isn't just about chasing money your whole damn life, right? What people do, but guess what? Guess who made it? Guess who made it a business model for every working person? The moment they come out the womb, you need to jump on this hamster wheel. Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. That's what America. That's what Babylon. That's what this is. They can't. They actually can't keep the Sabbath. They can't. If they try to implement a Sabbath, first and foremost, they got to follow the moon. So it's gonna change each week, and they literally design business and whatnot and everything to run 24/7, 365 days a year. They can't. They can't even to implement a day a week where they're just closed, right? Or they just stop. Can't do it. This whole country will fall. So this country can't even keep the law if it wanted to, because it says anti-business practices. And nobody's satisfied. If Amazon made a profit of 50 million one year, next year they're gonna want 100 million. The year after that they're gonna want 200 million. They have to constantly make more and more profits to sell more and more, and for that to work, they either have to lay people off, cut people off, so people losing jobs, even though they're making enough, but they want to make more. So nobody's ever happy, nobody's ever satisfied. Everybody, and people suffer for it. You really just see the society just gotta go. It's just gotta go, and it just, if anything, it just hones in more on the law of the Heavenly Father and how, like, truly the way of the Lord is right, always been right. The book of Sirach, chapter 40, verse 18, it says, "To labor and to be content with that a man hath is a sweet life." Right? So you labor and you content and you enjoying the things that you do have. That's a sweet life. Okay? Right? And you actually find out that when you go look at these so-called poorer countries, right? And you thinking, oh, they living bad because they may be poor or whatever. But they actually, they might not actually have crime is bad. They might not have bad health or bad food. You know what I'm saying? Because since they have less money or less things going on, they spend more time around the family. They spend more time outside playing, building relationships. Uh, they know how to make, you know, a meal stretch for the week because they know, like, oh yeah, no, this covers for the week. We ain't got to worry about nothing else. So hey, we good for the week. That's it. They actually, their mind is more open because, that's why the phrase goes, less is more. The less you actually have going on, the more you actually see, the more time you have to see that you can actually, study the scriptures or indulge in the things that bring you joy, free things. The more you got going on, the more you're distracted. So let me keep going. It says, "To labor and to be content with that a man hath is a sweet life, but he that findeth treasure is above them both." God. So hey, if you happen to come across a blessing, that's a blessing. But to be okay with content with what the things you have, that's a sweet life. It even tell you, Sirach chapter 31, it says, "Watching for riches consumeth the flesh." Okay. "And the care thereof driveth away sleep. Watching care will not let a man slumber, as a sore disease breaketh sleep. The rich hath great labor in gathering riches together, and when he resteth, he is filled with his delicates. The poor laboureth in his poor state, and when he leaveth off, he is still needy. He that loveth gold shall not be justified, and he that followeth corruption shall have enough thereof. Gold have been the ruin of many, and their destruction was present. It is a stumbling block unto them that sacrifice unto it, and every fool shall be taken therewith. What does that mean? It means, just like Esau Edom says, we must consume flesh, every desire, you need to get it. Buy things, throw it away, don't mean nothing. Get the next thing, keep going, move. It says that's you sacrificing to it, because that's like your God now. You feel if you ain't making money, you ain't doing something right. And that's typically how you feel. You feel if you ain't making no money, you ain't doing something right. Okay? Something ain't right. So you just always money. So basically money became your God. And that's why, the saying is, man's supposed to make the money, not money the man. Okay? You supposed to have a understanding and a discipline to know, okay, I gotta make some money, but it don't run your life. It doesn't control you. Those who sacrifice into it all end up being destroyed. Okay? You got these rappers and stuff. The rappers been getting killed left and right. The Lord really bringing judgment on these rappers. But they'll do these videos with the guns, and they got all this stacks of money, and they're just like, yeah. And you got to think about it. And in his mind, they're saying, well, I got to make more. What do you need more for? That stack of money should last you, hell, the fucking year. Probably more than that if you do it wisely. But in his mind, I got to make more. And I got to show off more. And you're never satisfied. Like Floyd, look at what he does to money. He burn it, right? Which is one thing, but he just constantly feels that he has to buy more and more. So he's never satisfied. It's like he's still trying to fill a void. And his whole thing is just more. So he doesn't know the virtue of the Sabbath, which really just comes to resting and stopping. And taking, receiving the wisdom and the knowledge of taking joy in the things that you do have or that you already have, that it don't require much for you to have, versus constantly thinking about, I got to make the next $1 million. How else can I make $1,000? It says, so it's a stumbling block. It says, blessed is the rich that is found without blemish and have not gone after gold. So just because you got money don't mean you're wicked. Okay, just because you know how to make money, you out there working, don't make you wicked. Well, okay, because it says, blessed is the rich that without found blemish. So long as you ain't, breaking the law, that's a blessing. Okay, all right. And of course, got to get 1 Corinthians chapter 6. Because it say, if you don't work, you don't eat, right? But to know what real riches are is to know that money is just here for your use. Okay, the pleasures of life, the joy of life that the Lord given us is all that's really free. It's really all free. Okay, and when the Israelites, if we were in our right land, in the land, and we kept the Sabbath, that would all be known unto us, right? 1 Timothy chapter 6. Before I get there, because I'll end on that. King Solomon himself said, Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 6, it says, better is a handful with quietness than both the hands full with travail and vexation of spirit. Right? So better is a handful with quietness and peace. Okay, you got just enough, but you got peace. Right? Then both hands full with travail and vexation of spirit. So, and just like it says, better is a dinner with bitter herbs with peace than a stalled axe with strife therewith. It's better to dwell on a housetop than with a wicked woman, a contentious woman in a large house. Yeah, all that stuff's true. You know what I'm saying? All this stuff's true. So that right there teaches you you don't actually have to have a whole lot or the best of something, the most beautiful bad woman and you know, the most elaborate, you know, 5 star, 5 course meal, all the time now thinking you winning. You got this big house and you got these waiters making you some some good ass food, right? But you in the house with a contentious woman and you trying to force it and you sitting down and she throwing a fit but in your mind, at least you can post on social media that, yeah, look what I'm doing, I'm winning. Them guys are miserable, man. They're miserable. Uh, I'll tell you who's happy. The man that's living in the forest, right? And all he need is his fireplace to light that fire and just listen to the sound of nature. With his dog. That man's at peace. That guy in that mansion with that contentious woman, that dude's in hell. So the scriptures teach you, contentment, right? Looking past the superficial and seeing the wisdom and the virtue of it. And all that. That's why the scripture says the wisdom of the Lord is very deep. When you really study the Sabbath and the spiritual sense behind it, like I said, not the harshness, a man being put to death, and things like that. When you see what the Lord really intended for the Israelites to indulge in, all of that can be found in there. So the Lord really did give the Israelites the secrets to life, the secret. You go listen to people's testimonies. You got people who left 6-figure jobs, you know, 6-figure jobs, and they just went to work part time, and they got the testimonies online. They'll tell you, I thought that's what I wanted, but man, I was burnt out. I couldn't do the things I liked, and I just decided to walk away and move over here. And now I'm living whatever I can. I'm living it up because I can enjoy nature. I can enjoy my family and all this other stuff. When you hear that testimony, I always think about, yeah, see, the Lord really gave that secret to the Israelites. Scriptures don't talk about consumption and endless consumption like in this society. This society, Esau, Edom, have you believe, like I said, if you ain't out there buying things you don't need and spending money you don't have, then you ain't doing nothing productive. You're actually an enemy. Okay, the closer you are to, as they say, financial freedom, you are a problem. That's why everything around you is a snare. Uh, if you want a new car, there are outrageous prices today. You probably most likely gonna need a loan. Good, you need a loan. Now we got you. We need you on these loans. As long as you paying somebody, that's what we need. The less people you paying, the bad. And they'll tell you with the credit. All right, I realized that growing up, I had a little student loan for like 3 grand, and one day I just went ahead and paid it. I actually put myself in the hole just to pay that because I don't want to mess around with this. My credit went down. I inquired, and at least it was my mother. She told me for real. She said, "Yeah, the less debt you have, then it's actually a problem," and that blew my mind. That's when really my eyes were open back then. I said, "So I'm being punished for doing the right thing." And yeah, when you do the research, they say, yeah, well, it's technically bad for the economy. You go get an apartment, they do a credit check. Mine was a blank sheet. Yeah, I ain't got nothing going, and they still gave it to me. But they say what? No credit is bad credit. Why? Because they want you to be in debt, and they reward you. If you got 6 loans out, right? Good job. Your credit's high. But as you start to pay those out, as your number starts to go to zero, then they want to punish you for it. Why? To keep you spending. So this whole economy is based off of debt, and everybody run on the hamster wheel. So you actually looking to be free and being content is a problem. That is a problem. Okay, that's why they'll flood your mail with, look here, buy. Here's free credit card, purchase, spend, get out there. And the more you just say, man, fuck all of that shit. I'm gonna be content. Scriptures talk about content. So you start to do less. You start to be a little active less, and that's actually a problem for the society. That's how society just gotta fucking go, okay? Because really humans weren't meant to be like this. That's why people got burning out, poor health, right? Because their bodies don't refresh, and that's why when the Lord gave us a Sabbath, okay, because when He looks at us, He wants to see Himself. He don't like to see us overworked. He wants us to sit down and chill and relax and refresh, just like the land too. See? Yeah. So better is a handful with quietness than both hands full of travail. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6. It says, "But godliness with contentment is great gain." So you see, that's great gain. Okay. It says, "For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out." Right. So, what serveth the man to be going his whole life thinking, consume, buy, never satisfied? Got to keep going. Got to keep. I made 100 million this year. I got to make 200 million next year. I got to make 500. Now I got to make 1 billion. And I got to keep going. I got to keep going. Right. You can't. You can't take it with you. Right. It says, "And having food and raiment, let us be therewith content." You see, content. You see, the scriptures talk about being content. Okay, now uh, it doesn't mean you have to be complacent. So if you can better your life, getting a skill, getting a trade, jumping in there, sure, of course. But when you understand contentment, then you understand that the excessiveness is unnecessary, and that's really what the wisdom is. Okay. So yeah, so in having food and raiment, let us therewith be content. Okay? Because in a society, you're always drawn to the more, especially by social media. All of this stuff is marketing, planned obsolescence, the newest model this year, the newest model next year, phasing this, but it's all to keep you thinking of you got to constantly do more, right? Whereas if you believe in contentment, then you really see that that's really the wisdom. Every year, right, in my place, I downsize. I say, okay, let me downsize. If I bought some clothes, some things I don't wear no more, I want it out. I just want to have, the less I have, the better. You know, I don't, because things can get stuffed. In a stuffy room, it's psychology behind it, but a dirty room or a messy room, um, you know, kind of keeps you from sleeping. Not keeps you from sleeping, but keeps you distracted. Whereas when the room is clean and there's less in there, it unclogs your mind. So I always do like a downside because stuff just piles up. Sometimes you got a bunch of junk stuff, and I take it out. You know, keep that mindset of being close to a minimalist. Maintaining that lifestyle. So it's really just all the knowledge and virtue of the scriptures. So yeah, understand that in this society, okay, if the law of the Sabbath was actually established, it would be a thorn in the side, right? We can't keep the law perfect on this side, but we will in the kingdom, and in the kingdom, we'll really see the virtue that the Lord wanted us to see in the Sabbath, and you know, till then, we in this wicked ass society. But truly, the Lord's riches and knowledge and wisdom, He really did hand that to Israelites, to Israel. Okay, we don't really fully see the whole picture of it yet, just yet, but we will in the kingdom, and that's why the scripture says not to be judgmental when it comes to the holy days. It's Colossians 2:16 says, "Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of an holy day, or as of the new moon, or as of the Sabbath days, which are shadow things to come, but the body is Hamashiach." So in the kingdom, we're going to keep it perfect. Nevertheless, we have to teach it. And, we're not going to teach you can have sex on the Sabbath or anything like that, because that's still going against it. But in the kingdom, we're going to keep it all perfect. Okay? So with that, I hope it was edifying. I say shalom.